Welcome to NSBA's FRN Conference videocast. I'm Kathleen Branch, Director of Advocacy Services, here with Mike Resnick, Associate Executive Director for NSBA. And we're excited to talk to you about the FRN Conference that will be happening here in Washington, D.C. in just a few weeks. But before that, we want to talk about a few issues that have been percolating around the country and in the nation's capital. And Mike, can you give us an update on what is happening with budget sequestration?
Sure. The thumbnail sketch is, as folks will remember, about 18 months ago, Congress was faced with the challenge of raising the debt ceiling, with more conservative members urging that there be budget cuts that go along with that in order to stave off future expansion of the national debt. The agreement that got reached included cuts of $1.2 trillion that would come from discretionary programs that include education, and that would be cuts over 10 years. Well, the Congress could not agree on where to make those cuts, so that put into place another element of this deal, which was automatic funding cuts by formula of 8.2% that were to take place on January the 2nd. Now, the significance of an 8.2% cut in education means that for every $1 million that a school district receives in federal aid, it would lose $82,000. There are no average districts, but for a typical district of 5,000 students, or for every 5,000 students, it would lose some $300,000. Placed in the context of the overall crimp on state and local funding, the loss of these funds in many districts is going to be extremely significant, particularly as they impact the Title I program, the children with the greatest needs in terms of closing the achievement gap, or in terms of IDEA, which basically puts the responsibility on the local school system to make up the difference through its general funding, and to take money out of the general funding program to make up for that cut. But what happened was that, as folks know, Congress and the President got together and they passed a tax program to extend some of the tax cuts, and in the course of doing that said, let's kick the sequestration can down the road for another 2 months. So here we are now, looking forward to the next 2 months, where these cuts will be back on the table. There will be a renewed determination made on raising the debt ceiling, and we know that funding cuts will be tied into that debate. But also, programs are currently funded under a continuing resolution, meaning this year's funding has been funded for all programs through March, and that funding ends at March, so that sequestration can become a bargaining chip for the continuation of funding if those cuts aren't made. So that we have a lot in front of us as we look to how we can spare education from these cuts. In my mind, we really have a breath of life here, because those cuts were going to be made. The question now is, what can we do to convince members of Congress that education needs to be protected? It only accounts for 1/1000th of the federal budget, but when we think of what the local impact is, what it means for students, and in the long term, what the return on investment is to both the students and to the economy of having the quality education they need that will last them a lifetime.
Well, yes, and it's complicated, and from what you've explained, what is NSBA doing to advocate for local school districts on Capitol Hill?
Well, this is a big issue, and we have our lobbyists on the Hill every day, but also because this will be as much a political determination of priorities within communities as much as it is an economic and logical determination from Washington, that school board members really need to have their voices heard and to come out and really rally behind education at this particular point. Advocacy groups from all sectors are going to be competing for who gets cut and who gets protected, and it's extremely important that we are in that game. I like to think of lobbying as a contact sport, that you cannot win the game unless you're out there playing it to win, and recognizing that spectators never do win, and if we're sitting on the sidelines simply watching, we will lose. And but I'm very confident that we can make this case for education with board members coming out. We've been at NSBA been urging boards to pass resolutions that demonstrate how sequestration would work in their district, to oppose it, to communicate that to members of Congress, to the media, to send it to us. We've gathered over 700 resolutions now. We've used those resolutions in our meetings with the White House. We've used it in meetings with congressional leaders, but it would be a much greater impact if rather than 700, we could have a couple of thousand. And we certainly urge all FRN members that haven't yet adopted resolutions to go ahead and see if they can get their board to pass them and add their voice to this important effort to save education funding.
Thank you, Mike. And more information about that can be found at nsba.org/stopsequestration, where you can get a copy of a sample resolution to pass. And as Mike mentioned, when you come to the FRN conference, you want to bring it to reinforce that to your member of Congress and the local impact that this will have during this wonderful window of opportunity that we have between now and when sequestration is scheduled to go into effect. And of course, we urge FRN members to talk to their members of Congress at this time, since it is their budget season where they're working out the budget and the great impact. But with that, in addition to sequestration, what else is NSBA working on for school districts and state associations?
We have two major additional issues. One is NSBA has developed a bill to help refine and delineate what the role of the Department of Education should be as it relates to local control. We've seen in recent years the Department of Education issuing regulations and programs and various kinds of incentives, either directly to school districts or through the states, that to a great degree have limited the authority of local school districts' discretion and flexibility. Yet some of these activities are not fully specified through legislation, and Congress has really got to step in and perform its role as a national policymaker in terms of reaching legislation through broad-based representative consensus. But what we have, the problem that we have here is the Department of Ed working somewhat unilaterally, and that we want to be able to begin to rein that in a little bit by causing the Department of Ed only to engage in activities for which there is specific legislative authority, and even then, when they do issue rules and regulations, to go through certain procedures that will enable greater input from local school districts in terms of the educational, financial, and operational feasibility of the rules and requirements that they are issuing. Another piece that we're looking at, of course, is the reauthorizations of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, long overdue. And certainly one of the issues that we have with the Department of Ed stems from the fact that Congress has not acted, and politics hates a vacuum, and the Department of Ed has moved in to fulfill the vacuum that Congress has left behind. And we think this is a mistake for the Congress. It needs to reauthorize the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and do it immediately, because in addition to the philosophical point, we know that the conditions that went along with the No Child Left Behind waivers will start reaching local school districts in this coming school year. And the last thing that we need to have happen is for school districts to begin implementing some of those waiver conditions in the next school year, only to then subsequently have Congress take it in a different direction, or to say that that was unnecessary to do to begin with. So we would like to see ESEA reauthorized before the beginning of the next school year. So you put sequestration, the NSBA bill on local school board authority, and the ESEA reauthorizations together. Those are big agenda items, but they're important agenda items. It's going to be a very active year, and certainly one in which we hope the FRN will be participating, not just at the FRN meeting, but throughout the year.
So what you're saying, Mike, is that not only will school board members be taking their board resolutions to the Hill, but also an NSBA bill seeking co-sponsorship.
That's correct. And that's why the FRN meeting, which will be held from January 27th to 29th, is just so important, that the timing in all three of these activities, the funding, the NSBA bill, the reauthorizations of ESEA, all begin this month in our ability to make these issues an agenda item for the Congress. And certainly the FRN meeting is an opportunity for hundreds of board members to come on Capitol Hill in order to make that statement.
Well, and what's terrific about the timing is it's the start of the new Congress. So you have all these new members of Congress that will be there, and their staff, who are so critical to the decisions made by members of Congress.
Right. So as we're thinking about what the FRN meeting can produce for us, for those FRN members, and we hope all of you will be coming to the FRN meeting, for those that are coming, what should they be doing to prepare?
Well, there are a number of things. Those of you that are coming to the conference, deciding whether or not you're coming, really we have a nice package for you. We've sent out the FRN background material, which outline what Mike was talking about regarding the 3 priority issues, and also your FRN homework, which is designed for you to take the pieces that apply to your district and bring examples to illustrate the local example. Because as you've heard Mike say in other video casts, I mean, members of Congress are hearing from all kinds of individuals with their interest, and school board members need to be speaking on behalf of education, because if you don't, who else will? So we have the background materials, the FRN homework that help paint the picture for your members of Congress. In addition, we will have a webinar that we're doing this week that will be recorded that you can listen to. And also we'll have the FRN notebook also online a week before the conference. But I also encourage you to go to the FRN background information, because you'll see the number of issues that will be addressed in the hot topic work sessions. And also we have 2 new general sessions, one on our school board's relevant, and 2, making the case for public education, where we'll have national experts debating this for you and presenting some real advocacy tools for you to take back to your local district. So I urge you to go to nsba.org/FRN2013 for more information. But I do have a pressing question out there, Mike, and that has to do with the State of the Union speech that is not yet scheduled. We've heard rumors that it might be on Tuesday, January 29th, which is our Hill Day, and also our reception on Capitol Hill. So will that impact our meeting at all?
Well, if the State of the Union does occur on that Tuesday, which is yet to be confirmed, one thing that will guarantee, and that is that members of Congress will be coming in for sure in order to be inside the Congress to hear the State of the Union address, so that we will have a population of members of Congress in town. And when it comes to the State of the Union address in the evening, many members will be in their offices looking for something to do, and our reception is right downstairs for them to partake and meet with their constituents.
Wonderful.
So we'll see whether or not the 29th will be the confirmed date. If it is, it's just an added benefit of coming to the meeting.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for a terrific background on what is happening now in Congress, what NSBA is doing, and we do hope to see you at the FRN conference January 27th through the 29th in Washington, D.C. It's the only national legislative conference for school board members.